I have been wondering this for a while now, how Americans have more people overweight than other countries. We got the answer. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into actually a ton of stuff in this video. We have apparently a number of big stories that have now come out, my friends. We got one on Jimmy Fallon. We got something going on in the UK. We got, of course, some big story here in America. We've been talking about what's happening in DC with, of course, the president taking over cities, now potentially New York City and Chicago, potentially many others. And at the exact same time, we have another huge story. Oh, maybe there will be some people, of course, brought in, my friends. Maybe we're going to have a lot of them. We're going to get into all that and much more in this video. Let's start here with apparently how America is a little bit overweight. Check this out.
Italy. They eat really well in Italy. Everybody I know, every time I go to Italy, everybody's eating really well. 11% obesity. United States.
So, of course, he means the fact that they eat literally nonstop carbs.
States, triple that. 33%.
Triple. Yeah, so that, just think about that. In Italy, they eat spaghetti. They eat pizza. They eat like all carbs. Like if you ate like that in America with America's form of food, this thing would be more like 44 or 50%, not 33. Right? So it's kind of amazing how that is the case. And we're going to, I mean, he's going to show it in a second here. It's pretty obvious, actually.
Triple. Spoiler alert, the reason why Americans are fat is because we don't eat real food.
That sounds about right. And that's why I've been so careful of recent looking at what's actually in something before I eat it. And the less ingredients, the better usually, for me at least. If it's got 3 ingredients, I'm super happy. Because usually it's like for instance, pork rinds. If you just get plain pork rinds, it's like literally like 1 or 2 ingredients. Like, you know, so there's certain things that obviously if you start getting like barbecue flavored stuff or whatever, then they have all these other things add into it. And of course, they don't ever use anything. Well, they don't usually use anything like that's a preservative that's natural, like celery extract or something like that. No, instead they use all these weird things that they've made and concocted. And if you go to Italy, they make their pasta different. They make their bread different. We bleach our bread. So all these things actually make a huge difference to your body. It causes inflammation. This might be why Americans live. And I'm not no expert. I don't know exactly what all of this means. But it is kind of amazing how we spend 2.5 times more on healthcare here in America than all the other Western nations pretty much. And they live 10 years longer. And we got all these special ingredients over here that they don't have in their food. I wonder if that's why we have so many issues. I wonder. So I'm like I said, I'm not no expert, so I just wanted to kind of cover it real quick. But we got a lot of stuff to get into. We have Jimmy Fallon, of course. It's kind of funny what's going on here. We have apparently everyone freaking out on Jimmy Fallon now because he realized he might be canceled next. Stephen Colbert was canceled. Howard Stern. A lot of these other guys are starting to freak out. Jimmy Kimmel already got his citizenship to Italy. Maybe he's going to go eat pasta there and get thinner. The way things are here, I mean, you can literally eat nonstop carbs and be thin there. It's kind of funny, actually. So, of course, over on Jimmy Fallon's show, though, he interviewed Greg Gutfeld. And now, of course, those on the left are freaking out over this and posting the most hilarious stuff ever. This seals it for me. People are completely turning on Jimmy Fallon. So now nobody wants to watch the guy. You know, no one on the left or right, apparently, just because he had on this guy who's apparently our president's favorite talk show guy. That's why he had him on, because he's like concerned, maybe I'll be next. And of course, now you have people online posting things like this. Fallon is such a slimy, opportunistic little creep for booking a literal self-avowed Yahtzee. You know, that game Yahtzee, of course. Yeah, so I think you know what word that is. Gutfeld, if Jimmy had an ounce of shame left in his pathetic body, he'd be living in the woods in isolation with Bigfoot. I mean, what kind of ridiculous stuff is this guy's writing? Absolutely ridiculous. You have here, of course, another one talking about the game Yahtzee as well. Who needs to be, I mean, goodness gracious. Like, look at the kind of things they say. This is ridiculous. I mean, just because he had on a guest you don't like. Seriously? That's the kind of thing you're going to say to him? What if your best friend is Jimmy Fallon? What if your best friend's Jimmy Fallon and you're on the left? Are you going to say stuff like that to him just because he had on someone you didn't like? It's ridiculous. Of course, like I said, we're going to get into a ton of stuff. In this video, we have Vance apparently saying some rather interesting things. 3 different things he said. One of them I covered where he said, Minnie, we're going to bring Minnie in, my friends. We're talking indictments. Minnie. And that was like day before yesterday, I think. He's got some new stuff he said as well. I think he's kind of like the sort of the spokesperson for our president currently. He just comes out and says certain things that are rather curious. We'll get into that. We got a lot of other stuff to get into. What's going on over in the UK. You're not going to believe some of the stuff we got to show you. We got PayPal. We got Peter Thiel. We got a ton of other stuff as well. People freaking out in DC and much more. First, I'm going to mention Food Supply, 25-year shelf life. Link is in the description. You definitely want to get this here. If you have not already, $27 for 3 days worth of food or 1 year for $2,600. I mean, goodness gracious, you might spend that in like 3 months in Walmart. $2,600. The way the prices are these days, a year's worth of food for $2,600. You never know what they have next for us. The fact that they're going to be bringing in a lot of people, that's what Vance said, makes you think, well, maybe that's why they're taking over, of course, cities. Maybe they're getting prepared because they know something big is going to happen. Of course, Congress shuts down for a month. That's when, of course, they can bring them, in. And now they're already talking about a number of them. We got specific names as well. Schiff is one of them, obviously, a lot of people are talking about. But you got a lot of other ones as well. But you're going to definitely want to get this if you have not already. Just click the link in the description. Click this top one if you want to get into one of these plans here. All right. And I mean, they got a lot of options like I showed you there. They got also, of course, tons of other stuff as well. Coffee, generators, who knows? They got a lot of different stuff you can go check out. Link is in the description for that. So also go check out all my other social media. I'm on X. I'm actually going to be doing a giveaway very, very soon here. Already set it up. A few days from now, it's going to happen. For hitting 500,000 subscribers on my other channel. Actually, I'm at 510 now, last I looked. 5 different $500 Amazon gift cards I'm going to give away. And I'm going to give away a $500 laptop. So 5 5s and then a laptop, all right? So I'm going to give away, that's to cover each 100,000 I got in subscribers, all right? So 5 or 6 different people are going to get a $500 item, all right? That's going to come very soon here. Let's get back to the video. So we have here, of course, JD. On why they broke the law under a previous president, and they need to be, of course, prosecuted. I think the only thing the far left really responds to is, of course, power. It's not kind of true. If they get off scot-free, if they're never looked into, if they're never put away or prosecuted when they violate, of course, the law, then they're just going to come back and do the exact same thing again. Yes, 100%. No, 1,000%. 1,000%. You do nothing these 4 years, they're going to come back 5-fold. Worse. It's going to look like the UK, and I'm going to show you what's going on in the UK in a minute. You remember what they were doing? Our president had to literally put out an executive order to stop the whole thing with the banks. D, of course, banking people. While they're doing all these things, enriching themselves via the Fed, of course, printing money. Jerome Powell refuses to lower interest rates. I'm going to get into that more on my other channel, but let me just play this clip. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about, Jerome Powell. Check this out.
What we're waiting for to reduce rates is to understand what will happen with really the tariff inflation. And there's a lot of uncertainty about that. Every forecaster you can name who is a professional forecaster with adequate resources and forecasts for a living is forecasting a pretty significant. Everyone that I know is forecasting a meaningful increase in inflation in coming months from tariffs because someone has to pay for the tariffs.
Check this out.
So who exactly is eating Trump's tariffs? We're going to show you in a minute because we have brand new data about this, shocking data it sure as hell isn't Americans. It's now been almost 7 months, and so far, he's wrong.
Yeah, 100% wrong. Jerome Powell is completely just not wanting to help out our economy at all. They need to get rid of the Fed. This dude, Jerome Powell, refuses to lower rates when it's way below what he had already wanted it to be. Not anticipated. He was anticipating it to go way high, inflation to go way up, and that we would be paying for tariffs. We're paying zero. It was 0.2% inflation last month. We're talking 2% inflation for the entire year so far, when it was like 8-10% under the last president. So zero inflation pretty much. All right. The other countries are paying these tariffs, not us. Zero payments on our side. Apparently prices aren't going up. And of course, this guy refuses to make it better. We could be actually saving tons of money on interest on new loans for mortgages or whatever. And we would have these credit cards down to like 10% instead of 20% if they would just do their job. He refuses to do his job. On top of that, they print this money, they give it to their friends. We would be making 4 or 5 times as much money in our wallets from our paychecks if we got rid of the Fed. We know that. I've shown it. And I'm going to show it later, but I mean, pretty much this graph tells you everything. As soon as we went off the gold standard, we were screwed. You could see it right here. We're literally sideways on pay while our productivity is through the roof. This is what this line is here. But the fact is, you would be making probably about anywhere from 3 to 10 times more money in your wallet from your pay, because they print all that money and take the power from your wallet. It's way worse than people realize. At any rate, so you got that story. And let's just get into some of this big stories here, okay? We're talking, this is interesting. We have here, of course, Vance. I showed you what he's been saying. He's been talking about we need to do something. We need to bring in many of them for these crimes. And our president has been saying the exact same thing. Now they're going to literally go into Mexico and get some of these cartels.
Trump said he's going to send the military to Mexico to deal with the cartels. Like literally fucking like full-on Sicario style. Mexico obviously is not happy about this.
He's literally rooting them out in real time. We're talking our president is in the mode of laying down the law right now, taking over cities, taking out all this crime, and it's across the board. I'm going to show you, we're talking even those, of course, we're talking Congress as well. We're talking everybody. We're talking drug, crime, whatever it might be. He's laying down the law, cleaning up these cities, going to clean up Mexico so they don't bring that stuff across over here, and also going to clean out, of course, something else going on in DC. Some of those people that represent us, of course. That's what I think is going to happen, and that's why he's taking over these cities as well. All right? Now, this is interesting. This is going on in the UK. So apparently, the GOV there, I'm talking UK, has been pretending as if they're trying to stop all these people coming in on boats. Of course, illegally. But they're actually literally helping them. They returned the boats to France. And you're not going to believe what company is helping them. It's BlackRock. Of course it's BlackRock. Who else would do it? So, of course, this guy, Andrew here, pointed this out. BlackRock owned lorry used to recycle boats carrying these, legals between UK and, of course, France. Under a contract to the UK Home Office. They're literally getting money from the GOV. BlackRock literally helping out to bring them all in while pretending to say, oh, we're not really doing anything. We're actually trying to stop them. And there's actually videos showing this. They literally show the evidence of them taking these boats and returning them back to France so they can do it and get more people. And the GOV is paying through it via BlackRock. All right, that's what they're doing. And of course, also at the same time, they told us that they were trying to protect us online with this new law, the Online Safety Act, which actually in reality had some extra clauses, some pork in it, which was basically you can't talk, of course, bad about these illegals. Or you might get of course, put behind bars or arrested or whatever it might be. And they don't apparently think people are smart enough to figure this out. banning video games as well that they didn't like. So they have like 9, or no, it's not 8, or is it 8? I can't remember. So there's like 8 things that they're blocking. Like you would agree with at least 6 of the 8. You'd be like, oh yeah, of course, nobody wants that stuff. That stuff's really bad. You know, you want to protect, of course, people, right? Online. But then they got their 2 extra ones. I think it's 1 or 2. I can't remember. Where they have the things that specifically you and I would 100% be against. 100%. And now our VP is calling that out, saying the UK needs to change their ways. I got that around here somewhere as well. We'll get into that later. But the fact is we're seeing this. So what they were doing over in the UK about trying to ban certain video games as well, and just pretty much anything that they didn't like, you have apparently PayPal doing it specifically of their own accord here.
If you've tried to buy a game on Steam recently, you might have seen this message. Valve has announced the removal of PayPal as a payment option in many countries. This is not a bug or a mistake. It's part of a bigger problem. The biggest question is, why is this only happening in certain countries? Now, you might remember 1 month ago when we first talked about the collective shout, Steam adding a new rule, and the mass removal of games, that it seemed like PayPal was involved.
But now PayPal specifically still doing it. And you remember, PayPal was owned by Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel claims to be on our side. Well, you know, I know it's two wings of the same bird, but when I say the right, I mean the side that we like of the right, right? But Peter Thiel apparently got his money from a certain guy with an island. Oh, that's kind of weird. He got a start from that dude. No joke. And, of course, on top of that, he was at a certain meeting recently, 2 months ago. A Build, Erberg meeting. We'll just say it that way. I think you know who they are. Yeah, so he was there. What a shocker, right? And, of course, on top of that, these companies are really getting kind of what you would call corrupt. Okay? You got PayPal. I used to use PayPal a ton. I used to talk about them all the time back on my business channel. I did about 80,000 transactions through PayPal when I used to sell online back in the old days. But they always seemed to have a little thing about them I didn't, exactly like. And we're starting to see this more and more with companies like Adobe and others. We had recently Louis Rossmann come out talking about this, how back in the old days when you bought a piece of software, you actually owned the piece of software. They couldn't, take it back from you later and force you to pay them again. They couldn't say, oh, you only got a 1-year contract on this. Let's say you bought it back in 2010. You're like still using MS Word from 2010. And then they put this weird, program on your computer that literally removes your license and then tells you to buy it again. This is literally what some of these companies are doing. Okay, check this out. And of course, he's saying we should protest this by using Clippy as our logo. Now, Clippy was that little paperclip that would help you out on Word back in the old days and wouldn't try to get money out of you. He would just help you out. He was an innocently helping little robot, unlike these AIs where they try to force you to pay for AI.
Besides, I think that Clippy is like a modern day Sons of the Harpy mask. If you're tired of companies changing the terms of the sale after the sale and getting away with it, turn your profile photo to a Clippy. Mm-hmm. If you're tired of companies that have the ability to reach into your house and ransomware your products so that they stop working unless you pay them again, claiming that that's legal, but then when somebody tries to give you back access to what you bought and paid for, that's illegal. Change your profile photo
that's messed
to
up.
a Clippy. If you're tired of sex bots invading the comment section on a regular basis, and their comments always posting with no problem, but your comments being censored even when you're not saying anything that bad, change your profile picture to a Clippy. If Google being one of the premier data...
Oh my goodness. He even gets worse. He even goes into something even way worse. But the fact that a lot of people complain about not being able to post a comment on a video while there's these Autobots doing it nonstop is kind of ridiculous. Wouldn't you say that's a little ridiculous? You would hope so. But that's the kind of stuff going on these days. And they literally ransomware out your purchase from like 10 years ago and try to force you to pay again. And then they don't want you to be able to repair your stuff either, which is absolutely insane. And they're trying to force AIs now into software too, and then try to charge you a monthly fee for that. While Clippy was free the entire time. So anyway, there's that. I mean, there's so many things I could talk about. I don't want to get into everything. I'm going to get into actually half of it over my other channel. But we got Drew Barrymore here with Bill Maher. And this highlights how they were trying to do here what they're doing in the UK. Check this out.
And it is just way too dangerous now, but you're still doing it.
It's slightly less dangerous than it was 2 years ago because we did have a vibe change. And because the Democrats lost so badly in 2024, the blush is off the rose on left-wing censorship and, oh my God, you can't say that. Stop telling me what I can do, what I can say, what I can think, who my heroes are supposed to be.
All right, so obviously here what he's talking about is you should be able to say whatever you want to say. And you see it is a tendency of those, of course, on the left to not allow you to do so. And that's why we're seeing what we're seeing also over in the UK. And of course, now our president has been, or particularly the VP, has been calling them out for this and saying we might actually not do business with them. We might not do certain things with them because they're doing this. It's affecting us over here. Their ridiculousness over there is impacting here in America, and we won't tolerate it. So we'll actually punish them economically or whatever to stop them from doing that. And hopefully they just change their tune. That's kind of the point. And this video here kind of gives you an idea. This actually shows you why this happens.
The first thing that an authoritarian regime does when it wants to take over a society is it ruthlessly destroys the family.
You think every man should have to...
Well, that's kind of weird. That's kind of weird. I wonder why. Oh, could it have something to do with, the rainbow? Oh, making it impossible to get married and actually have a family because you can't afford anything because the Fed and Jerome Powell won't allow it? Yeah, actually.
To serve the country.
You have an entire generation of young people who are no longer resilient. In 1973, there were two things that...
I wonder why. I mean, they literally stack the deck against everybody now. You can't afford anything. How are you going to have a family and you don't have any money to even be able to afford anything? In of itself, buy it for yourself, right? And this is because they print that money, they give it to and enrich their friends, and then you and I are paying for it by them sucking the power out of our dollar in our wallets. And if you actually had the dollar back on the gold standard, you would at minimum make 3 times what you're making currently. Let's say you're making $25 an hour. You will be making essentially $75 an hour once the dollar's back on the gold standard. You should ask yourself why no one says this when it's a fact. It's a fact. We have a country who recently did it. Their groceries went and cut in half, or not a half, a third. A third the price for their groceries about a year or two after they went back on the gold standard. A third compared to America. So if you can imagine if they actually had our food correct here, if they actually had the dollar back on the gold standard, you would live 10 years longer, spend a third as much on healthcare, then on top of that, you would have 3 times as much money. Can you even imagine that? You'd be able to afford everything. You could have you could have a huge family. It would be easy then. But the GOV don't want it. And they don't want to tell you that. And they're hoping you're not smart to figure it out. That's the entire point. And actually, I'm going to get into just a little bit of this, and I'm going to get into a big thing after this. Okay? Because I got like about 10 windows I'm going to cover on my other channel, my main channel. But you're seeing our president take over DC. You're seeing a ton of stuff happening all at once. This is the big one, my friends. I really think so.
Trump is taking over Washington, D.C., and he's planning on also taking over other major cities. Thank God. Thank God. Finally, somebody's putting this shit under control.
Exactly.
Oh, please. Thank you, Donald. Holy shit.
I wonder why it got like that. Oh, it could have something to do with those laws that they passed in those cities. Oh, they're on the left. Oh, no, what a shocker. I can't believe it. So, of course, our president has done something rather interesting, sort of unprecedented, taking over, of course, D.C., potentially also New York City and Chicago, according to all major cities potentially. Is something coming? That's what some are wondering. Putting the National Guard, of course, in. You have, of course, protests already going on in D.C. Obviously got some people doing that currently. And we have, of course, also on top of that now there's a bunch of crimes being, of course, brought in, potentially prosecuted. We're talking indictments, things of that nature happening right now. We're talking big names. Big names, okay? And we're talking like Schiff. We're talking actually a number of people. And I'm going to get into all those over my other channel. We're talking a lot of people. And he's talking about taking over cities, multiple cities. All right?
I have the same thing here. But then I'm going to look at New York in a little while. Let's do this. Let's do this together. Let's see.
Exactly.
It's going to go pretty quickly. And if we need to, we're going to do the same thing in Chicago, which is...
He's telling you what he's going to do. Because he's expecting something. Why would you just take over cities like this? Unless he's expecting something to happen. Obviously the crime is bad, but I think it's much more than that. I think he's going to be expecting something to happen very quickly because they all went on break for a month. And this is when they can take him in. We're talking about those that represent us. He says that there also are home, of course, grown ones in DC. Is he referring to those that are, of course, representatives? Of course, they're going all after this thing with Russia. And that is a lot of big names. And that's what Comey, he's one of them. You got a lot of other people. You got Brennan here. Also, former president's wife. I think you know who she is. A lot of big names. A lot of big names. I'm going to get into all that over my other channel. And actually, we got some big thing with these redistricting. And I think he's going to try to get rid of the Fed. I'm going to show you the evidence of that. Getting over to this other topic, I saw my researcher, he does a ton of research, man. Like, I couldn't even do what he does. He does a ton of research, and he sends me a lot of stuff. He gets a lot done. And he sent me this one from Leela Rose. I believe she's Catholic. Yeah, she's got to be Catholic because of what she says here. She talks about how men don't actually need things like sex. You don't need it, men. You don't need it at all, according to her. Check out what she had to say.
Can we all talk about Father Mike Schmitz? I showed him to a girlfriend who's not Catholic, and she's like, when's Mass? What about the man needing sex? That's just a cultural narrative that basically says men are like animals and they have to be able to do this sexual thing. Otherwise, they're going to go crazy. And the reality is there's whole vocations that are celibate. And these are virile men, men's men. Some of the most masculine of men I know are priests. We need food. We need air to breathe. We don't need sex.
Well, that's interesting. I thought it'd make you animalistic to eat food and breathe. I mean, that's very animalistic as well, right? And of course, she points to these priests that are celibate, right? Well, something that she doesn't point out is that 1,000 years ago, that particular priest might have had a wife, not only had one wife, but might have had two wives in the Catholic Church. Apparently, a lot of Catholics don't even know this history because they don't look into their own history enough. But actually, 1120 AD is when priests were forbidden to marry and had their marriages dissolved by the Pope. Literal people who were married, who were priests, had their marriages destroyed by the Pope because of what reason? And I'll show you that in a minute. What was this priest's name that she's talking about here? Let's see. Okay, what's this priest's name?
Let's take a look. Can we all talk about Father Mike Schmitz?
Okay, Father Mike Schmitz. That's his name. Father Mike Schmitz. Right? So, of course, we actually had this predicted in the Bible, by the way, as well. A lot of people don't even know this. 1 Timothy 4, now in the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron, forbidding to marry. Priests can't marry. And commanding to abstain from meats, meatless Fridays, which God hath created to be received with thanksgiving of them which believe and know the truth. For every creature of God is good, and nothing is to be refused. Meaning, it's not animalistic. It's of God. God created it. Be fruitful and multiply. It's not some base, animalistic, devilish thing like she implies. If you look at history, church history, you will find out that it was Pope Benedict VIII that issued a rule prohibiting children of priests from inheriting property. Pope Gregory VII banned marriages for priests. Second Lateran Council held in 1139 forbidding priests from marrying. Pope Innocent II voided all current priest marriages and forced all new priests to divorce their wives. This is the beginning of the prophecy. I just mentioned 1 Timothy 4, Second Lateran Council eerily fulfills this prophecy to perfection. Why did the Pope, through a council, ban priests from marrying? Because he was afraid they would inherit church property. In other words, they, the GOV, wanted to control all the wealth and power. Kind of sound familiar? Oh, it's kind of like the Fed. It's kind of like America and how you can't afford anything. It's all about money and power. And those at the top don't want you to have any of it. They don't even want you to have a family. They don't even want you to have enough money to even have a family. That's why it's the way it is currently. That's the entire point of this. And this is where they get it wrong. Being celibate is actually not of God. Matter of fact, there's even a verse, what was it, 1 Timothy 2? Says that all bishops and priests should be married. And then in Timothy 3, it says, in the latter times, they will make it illegal for you to get married if you're a priest. So let me show you this. It's so obvious when you look into it. It was 1 Timothy 3 and 1 Timothy 4. Let me pull this up. Goodness, I have too many windows open like usual, so I can't even do it right. Let's see if I can get it like this. Okay. All right. 1 Timothy 3. Here we go. Let's go to the King James. More popular. This is a true saying. If a man desire the office of bishop, desires a good work, a bishop must be blameless, a husband of one wife. Oh, a bishop. Oh, what? Do they got bishops in the Catholic Church that don't have a wife? Yeah. It's literally against Scripture. It's against Scripture. It's straight up against Scripture. And on top of that, you go one chapter ahead, and Paul says, look, I just told you you have to have a husband of one wife if you're a bishop. Guess what happens in the future? Oh, let me tell you. Now the Spirit says in the latter times, they'll depart from the faith and they'll tell you you can't marry. Oh, that's weird. 1,000 years ago, this occurred. And now they've been doing it for almost 1,000 years. No marriage for priests. It's literally predicted in Scripture. It's funny that no Protestants even know that verse. It's just amazing. People read it and they literally ignore what it says. I've seen Protestants use that verse, that prophecy, incorrectly. Not even taking it and just straight up reading it as it says it and just saying, what? Where is somebody forbidden to marry? Oh, priests. Oh, that's so obvious. Who else did this? In the 1800s, you had Dr. Kellogg, who pretended to be a believer, claimed to be a Seventh-day Adventist when he was actually didn't even believe in the resurrection. He was the one who told you, who was very, very anti, of course, sex in the church, even though he's not even a believer himself, and brought these ideas into everyone's minds. And of course, because we have the Pharisaical sort of mentality like we had back 2,000 years ago, where they have tons of rules, heap rules on your back, but they don't lift a finger to follow them themselves because they're complete hypocrites. That's why they get caught with the secretary, and then they all fall, all these ministers, left and right, because they don't follow their own rules. And they make these rules up, and they're not even in Scripture. And they ignore the other scriptures that say flat out, don't teach these things. So they think that if you are somehow celibate, you're more holy. No, you're not. This is not true. And of course, it's interesting if you look into John Harvey Kellogg, the creator of cornflakes, Kellogg's Cornflakes, was indeed known for his strong views against what he considered excessive activity. We're talking sex. In what way? He literally did it, of course, once with his wife, apparently, according to, from what I've read. The guy was turned off completely to the entire notion. The man was a businessman, inventor, physician, and one of his patients was Rocca, of course, Feller. That's kind of weird. Let me show you that. Yes, Henry Ford and Rocca, Feller were among notable key figures treated by Dr. Kellogg in Battle Creek, Michigan. And of course, there's lots of other famous people, Howard Taft and others. And of course, this man didn't believe what is actual orthodoxy whatsoever. He didn't even agree with this teaching either, the Seventh-day Adventist. He didn't agree with it. The guy rejected resurrection. He was a progressive, as it literally says on his... And actually, by the way, it used to say all this stuff here on Wikipedia, But I've noticed anytime I ever point out things like this, all of a sudden Wikipedia changes. I've pointed out things on Google before, and like a week later, it's deleted from Google. I've pointed out things like this on Wikipedia, and then a year later, it's gone. It used to say this stuff on Wikipedia, that he was literally not Orthodox. Now, apparently, they removed it. He was a progressive, and he didn't even believe in the resurrection. So it's just kind of amazing how they would say, well, this guy's a good Christian, and he's got good teaching for you. You should listen to him. Who else got money from the Rockefellers? Oh, how about this movement right here? Oh, look. They funded the entire thing from the beginning. I wonder why our world's so screwed up. I don't know. It's so hard to understand. So all of this came from that family. They funded lots of great things. I'm being completely sarcastic, of course. And it's no wonder that they took the dollar off the gold standard here in America as well. And that's why you can't have a family anymore, because you can't afford it, on top of laws being against you, making it impossible. I mean, the way they make stuff today, it's ridiculous. This all needs to change. This all needs to change. And, of course, you got Jerome Powell here. We would have a much lower inflation rate, or not inflation. We have a low inflation rate. We'd have a much lower APR rate on mortgages and credit cards if he would just do his job correctly, which he refuses to do. And on top of that, they're also the ones stealing the value of your dollar from your wallet, so you can hardly afford anything. You have, of course, in the Middle Ages, St. Thomas Aquinas, a Catholic, also mentioned that we should permit things like this, ladies of the night, merely because if you didn't allow it, it would get worse in society, which I think is kind of true. If you look at our society today, it's gotten worse. It's gotten worse. They permitted it merely as like a pressure valve. Like, look, society is, there's fallen people in the world. We need a pressure valve. This is the pressure valve. If you don't allow it, then much more crazy stuff's going to happen, because the devil can wield the power of sex and use it for things like, I don't know, islands? I don't know. Things like that. You see what I'm getting at? How about priests that do things they shouldn't do? I don't know. That might have something to do with it. The devil has a greater temptation on a priest that can't marry, because he's going to have a drive in him for this activity. It's like starving you physically from food and expecting you to just eat super healthy, wholesome foods. When you're like starving to death, you're going to go eat 3 Big Macs. You know what I mean? That's what you're going to do. You're going to go, as soon as you see some food, you're going to eat it. That's what happens. They don't regulate it properly, and it makes it worse because they're trying to have this false holiness that sex is evil. This is my entire point. Back in the Middle Ages, there were artists like Raphael and Michelangelo who painted, of course, images without, clothes on in churches. Today, it's considered super evil, but it wasn't seen that way in those times. Things like this was not automatically equated with sin like they are today. This is why the devil's able to do this. He has people in the church that are pharisaical, just like the time of Jesus, he had to deal with them all the time, that make lots of rules so that it makes this pressure that's about ready to explode. And then people get into really bad things because of it, like with the secretary, because a pastor says you can't do anything. And then, of course, he gets completely caught as a pure hypocrite, a whitewashed tomb, as our master said back 2,000 years ago, because they don't treat this properly. They have nothing goes or anything goes. The devil's side is, I have SDX, I can do whatever I want, I control the entire resource. And then he gets his own people in the church and says, it's evil, it's a sin, so you can't do any of it. It's all wrong. And this is entirely to make you go this direction over to here and land in the devil's hands and do whatever. That's the entire point of it. And no one seems to see this. They're too busy trying to pretend to be righteous. They can't say these things when it's super obvious that clearly they thought differently back then. That's why they didn't have these problems. They allowed these things in society, and People were normal back then, unlike today. Unlike today. You see what I'm getting at? They painted these things in churches. Literally, today they would say you're like an anathema if you did that. Right? And of course, this all comes back to this verse I've shown many times as being mistranslated. It doesn't say woman, it says wife. It says, do not covet thy neighbor's wife. That's what the King of Kings was saying 2,000 years ago. He was literally quoting the 10th commandment, or paraphrasing it actually. You can actually see it in the Greek Septuagint. It's the same verbiage. This word means specifically wife, guneka. And of course, they mistranslate it in 90+% of the Bibles. Almost every one of them got some mistranslation. By the way, Michelangelo and Raphael, they lived in like 1500s. The first Bibles in the 1500s had this translated correctly. This one right here, 1500s, Matthew Bible, correct. Gray Bible, correct. William Tyndale version, correct. Guess which one had it wrong? 1600s, King James Version. And then after that, everyone copied that one. And that's why we have so many problems on this topic and why our world is so insane now. A lot of people just assume it's because of the internet. I don't think so. That might be obviously kind of like throwing fuel on it, making it worse. But in reality, the seed is this thing that I'm pointing out. It's not the internet, like the Amish would tell you maybe is the problem. Although, I mean, that would probably cut it off pretty good for a lot of people. But even then, I don't think that would fix it. It's kind of like if you're an alcoholic and having alcohol around you or something, right? It's like that. So the issue is mainly how you think, not the thing being available. If you're thinking as everything's a sin, you're setting yourself up for failure, is my point. That's my point. Anyway, that's my video. I'm kind of wondering what some of you guys think. Let me know in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.